Alright, how are we doing today? The idea for this video is I'm going to go through the disassembly of a Leader Arms AR-12, and the importer is a PW Arms, and that's what you usually find it in gun stores under is the PW Arms AR-12 or the PW AR-12, and those are just the various names it goes by, but Leader Arms is the manufacturer and PW Arms is the importer. This is a shotgun seen as the budget equivalent of the MKA 1919. In my hands, it's since I've had it, it's fairly new still. Even though, as you can see, we got a screw missing here, and charging handle's been broke off. But that's just cheaper parts. I only paid $430 for it. At my local gun store, I've seen them go as cheap as like $380 or so. If you know how to work on them, they can be turned into very, or at least fairly, decent firearms, but right out of the gate they're going to be kind of sketchy. But this is the disassembly for it, and I'll talk about some sort of aspects that I've had to do recently about it, or recent repairs I've had to do that have required me to fully disassemble it. So this is where I learned to do it. The MKA 1919, to my knowledge, is a little bit different than the AR-12, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a thorough review, or not review, but a disassembly video on this. And the tools you're going to need for it is you're going to need various hex key or Allen key sets, they call them. Just depending on the size of you get, I feel as though that from gun to gun you're probably going to have different size screws. I know just on my front side post I have two different sized screws for the same purpose. So I had two sets, and where's my cat? Sam. Anyways, you're going to need Allen key sets or loose Allen keys, preferably a 3/8 drive ratchet, Phillips head screwdriver, a 5/16 large hex driver, and an extension long enough to go into the buttstock. It's got to be at least 10 inches long. This is a 12-inch extension. And that's there's a big or a large central bolt that holds the stock to the receiver, and that's what this comes in handy for. Alright, anyways, let's get started. What we want to do first is you always want to make sure the weapon is clear. Take the magazine out. Kind of stiff because of this tab right there. But as you can see, the magazine is empty. But you may ask, how are you going to check it if there's no charging handle? There's a way to do that. You can either hit it on the ground really hard and stick a screwdriver in there and load it, cock it open, or what I've done is I've taken the handguards off, which I'll show you how to do that here in a minute, and then grabbed the gas key and then just slid it forward. But I already know it's safety checked and I know it's clear. We'll see if I can bring it open, which I don't think from here I can. But I know for a fact it's empty because it's been empty before. It even got into the shop, but just for safety's sake I will treat it as though it is loaded. And where you want to start is you have your primary, I'm not really sure what you would call that, but this is pretty much the key point of the entire forend here. But where you want to start, so when you go to unscrew this, you can actually slide the assembly off. If you want to start with the front side post, just on the bottom here, there's two Allen keys or hex keys, depending on what you call them, and you got to find the one that fits. Like I said, there's two different ones that fit it. You got to find out which one takes which. I've also Loctited these because the recoil, excuse me, is so great that it has blown the front side off before. See which one I got here, and it's this one. Yep. It's like the rear bolt is like metric, and then the front is like standard. I'm sure they're supposed to be the same size, but mine are just weird, and they're two different size. which is a mild inconvenience, but hey, usually you don't have to do this. Back them out pretty far because they tighten down a friction plate that holds the sight onto the barrel. All it is just a clamp-on assembly. And then, once you get it loose enough, just try to wiggle it out. And you'll see that this gas tube is fake. It only goes about 1/4 of an inch into the handguard. And then from there you can just slide it off. And I'm just trying to be cautious here because you're supposed to treat them as loaded, although I know it's empty. I'm just going to try to use the fake gas tube to try to pull it off and keep it out of the way. Then you just set that aside. Next step, just to get it out of your way, is the rear sight. As you can see, I've lost one of the screws just from the recoil, but they're just thumb screws. Just loosen it up. There we go. That's kind of a pain, especially now that only one screw is holding it. But what you can do is, if you remove both sights, you can get an auxiliary set of iron sights, like Magpul backup sights or Troy sights or whatever, because it's standard with Picatinny rail up top, 1913, so you can put front sight here, rear sight there, so on and so forth, or a red dot. And if you want to do away with the stock sights, which I plan on doing if I keep this gun. Now we're going to move on to the kahuna of all the kahunas, and we're going to go to this nut here, which I Loctited it on, so it's going to be a bit of a bitch to get off. Well, in that case, I'm going to go here to my tool bag, and I don't recommend doing this to your guns. Probably use like a piece of cloth or whatever. I'm just going to crank on with a pair of pliers. You can scratch it up doing that. And you just thread it off. It's got a D-tin in it. I don't know if you heard it clicking or not. It's a lot like a Mossberg pump action shotguns, a magazine plug. It's got a D-tin in it. Then you'll see two different colors here. This plate just slides off, and right off the muzzle. Just trying to. Then this handguard. It's almost like an AR-15 or M16 clamshell. It just falls in two pieces. Set them off to the side, and then you have your primary spacer here, which kind of holds the gun together. Slide that off, and then what you see here is why I was stuck. It's because there was an O-ring in there, and then the O-ring kind of tore from the recoil, so I just grabbed some tape and just filled the channel up. You can probably see there. Channels right there to the left, and then to the right, it's full of duct tape. And then what you can do from there is, well, I'm going to safety check it for you. Grab the gas tap and pull it open. Notice there's nothing in the receiver or the chamber, and we're good to go. Now what you can do is you just take your hand, grab the barrel by the tap here, and just wiggle it, and just pull straight out like you're trying to pull the barrel off a Mossberg. Just like this. Mine's still stiff because this had only about 200 rounds through it, and it just comes right off. There we go. Okay, now what you can do, let me make myself some space here. Is you set this down, grab your screwdriver, and from there go to the recoil pad, and you'll see two holes, top and bottom. That's where a Phillips head screw will be. You just kind of jam it in there, feel around because you can't really see it because it's kind of in there pretty far, and just give her the twist. I recommend just kind of backing the head out a little bit past the recoil pad, like right about here, so the friction of the rubber will kind of keep it captured, so you don't have to worry about chasing loose parts. I just do the same for the bottom. If you want to get lazy, you can use like a drill or whatever with a Phillips head bit. And just get it to where the heads are exposed right past the rubber, and then you can just grab the whole recoil pad and slide it off the stock, where you will then see that it is hollow. And then down there at the bottom, I'm gonna try to get a flashlight going. That's the hex head nut down there at the bottom. That is where your ratchet, your 5/16 hex head, and your extension are going to come in handy. Just hook the assembly together. I've got a pivoting head extension. You see it's bulged instead of very flat. It allows just for a little bit of ease, just to try to feel your way around in there, I think. All depends on personal preference. And then kind of stick it down there. And I've got Loctite in this one too, so it's going to be a little hard. And just back it off. Once it's loose enough, you can just use it like a screwdriver and just thread it out. You can kind of see there. Bring it out. I just leave everything in there together. And you're left with the upper and lower receiver. Take this little lever in front of the mag well, flip it forward, releases your bolt, your charging. I'm not exactly sure what you would call that. And the manual, they have names for all of this. I just didn't bother memorizing it because the shit's broke. Probably your piece of your carrier assembly. All comes out as one piece. Recoil spring just slides right off the guide rod. And then what you can do from there is finagle your way to pull it apart. It's indexed here, so you gotta do like an HK and pull it straight back. I'm gonna go off camera just so I have a little bit of leverage. There we go. All I did was just pull it straight back and it comes apart. Very reminiscent of an AR lower. Works the same way. I'm just going to set that off to the side, and then you're left with the stripped upper receiver. And I've got to get this thing fixed because I got to try to extract the charging handle. You can see that little shiny piece of metal there. That's where the charging handle is supposed to go, and it just kind of broke the fuck off. So I've got to get that fixed. I'll try to extract out the pair of needle nose pliers. And there you have it. That's how you fully disassemble dirty. I haven't cleaned it since I've had it, but I've only put 200 rounds through it because the shit started breaking. But and there you have it. That's how you completely strip down a PW/Leader Arms AR-12 shotgun.